Hello and welcome to UK Versus, bringing you theories, news and more, win, lose or draw. Today we're here with a brand new Grand Archive deck building competition, the Material Deck, where we provide the material and they build the deck. I am joined by the amazing Merkel Do, the amazing YouTube content creator for GA, budget decks, overall amazing content, and my go-to for immediately, the first person I asked to take part in this competition. And the players are going to be filled in by Team Glimpse 6, a group of friends who are absolutely amazing at content, gameplay, and have the most prolific playmat collection out of any Grand Archive player. If you have more playmats than Team Glimpse 6, no, you don't. How you doing, my friends?
Doing
Doing
great.
wonderful.
Doing fantastic.
Perfect. So let's.
Alaska is treating all of us very well right now.
It is very warm, yeah.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching this video. I'm so excited to be here today and not only judge these decks, but make their lives more difficult and roast them most importantly. So UK Versus, thanks for having me.
Thanks for doing.
Hi everybody, my name is Schwan. We are Team Glimpse 6. We operate out of Anchorage, Alaska. We've been playing Grand Archive for about 15, 16 months now. Quick fun fact for both myself as well as Von God, our first actual Grand Archive event ever was Ascent Seattle because there was nowhere to play up in Alaska. And we've just been kind of trying to push the game and help it grow here. Brought in an old friend of ours, which is Gandalf, who's been with us for about the last year or so. But yeah, so I'm Schwan. I'll pass it over to Von God if he wants to add anything.
Hey, I'm Von God. I've also been playing for about the same amount of time, 15, 16 months. My fun fact is, during Ascent Boston, I actually had the joy of getting to play Water Allies, just in the same way that Caben did. I just had more fun because that was during the joys of Rile the Abyss, and I happened to play some cards that were really mean against Floating Memory.
I'm Gandalf. I also go online by Stormcrow because that is what Theoden called him as he entered the halls of the Rohirrim. I've studied deck building from the most prestigious of cooking brews. I've studied from Magic. I've studied from Pokemon. Studied a little bit in Yu-Gi-Oh! So I have crossed the world learning how to brew and cook these delicious brews.
My deck building inspiration is just from our judge. That's not a bribe. That is just fact. Most of the fun homebrew decks that I've ever tried have been from Merkel himself.
I'm so sorry.
My dream is to be able to find the all blue so that we can finally get all the different kinds of fish in one area.
So let's break this down. We've got 3 amazing deck builders. Unfortunately, one of them is going to go home after round 1, and then after round 2, one more will go home, and we'll have our crowned winner. Round 1 will be my technical prompt. It won't be anything too crazy. It won't be anything too far out of the box. It's more of a warm-up for our deck builders to get used to what they're doing here, because the decks don't need to be competitive. They just have to do what we ask them for. Then after round 1, Mergledoo has their own very spicy prompt that can be absolutely anything from building around one particular card to making the most expensive deck that it could possibly exist. It's entirely up to our judges what they want from a deck in round 2, giving them some more creative freedom and putting the pressure on deck builders. As a new player myself, I've been playing about 3 months at this point. I would like from you 3 just the best new player friendly deck that you could take to locals and have fun. Like I said, nothing too spicy, nothing too out of the box. Just something from you that isn't too complicated, isn't too over reliant on keywords, mechanics, combos. That is just fundamentally good Grand Archive that someone could take and play 3 rounds at locals and have a lot of fun.
Got it.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
I'll start time once all of you are on your tables.
Good luck, gentlemen.
That's
All right,
1.
looks like they've left.
That's 2.
I think this is a great idea for a prompt too. You know, as a game that is still emerging, it's still growing. I think this is the best thing possible we could be doing for your audience is taking 3 people and just tell them to come up with a deck that people can come bring to their shops. I think is a really smart one.
We get to see what some of the best players in America and like who have attended multiple Ascent level events think a good deck is at its core, at its most basic level. It's not going to be too technical, but it's also going to be very trying for established players because
Yeah.
When you think of chess masters play, go, oh, why did you make that very complicated move? It's like, it wasn't complicated to me. It's very hard for players once to get good to remember what the basics actually are.
Well, not only are these great deck builders, but these are three people that are very conscious about building and maintaining a local scene. They spoke about it whenever they are introducing themselves. This is a core part of their experience with the Grand Archive, is making sure that people are able to join and partake in the game. So I think this is going to turn out really well.
What do you, as a premier deck builder, as was mentioned, want to see in a beginner-friendly Grand Archive?
I would love to see decks that I think just they fall into place, especially for people that typically come from other card games. UK versus, I think you fall in this camp. You've played other card games, and somehow, some way, you found Grand Archive, and you've got sensibilities as to what you like from other games. I think finding ways to incorporate those key principles into Grand Archive is a great place for people to start. They already kind of know what they like. Do they like to draw cards? Do they want to be aggressive? Do they want to display allies and have board control? All these are things that are possible, and they're all available for new beginner-friendly decks that are budget conscious.
Exactly. Are there any traps or any parts of Grand Archive that, if you see in a deck, would immediately make you think it's not new player friendly?
So, I would say, if we're talking about that, I think it's really kind of up to the person. Everybody's got their limits. But I think if you're really just, you want to just put a deck together, slap some sleeves on, get to the tables and play, I think not going all the way to level 3 is a smart way to do it. Now, we do have the Mordred Recollection deck that came out recently and did provide a playset of dungeon guides. Fantastic product, and it really helped the game, and people get the cards they need. But I do think that if you're focused on going to level 3, you're not going to be focused on the fundamentals, which is where you really need to put your time and effort, is making sure you're comfortable with how the game itself plays. So I think a level 1 deck, a level 2 deck is where I'd want to be today.
Quite similar to the Grand Archive demo product, which only goes to level 2 Lorraine. And the level 3 characters can get quite complicated, as we've seen with Merlin, even Mordred having this level 3, then additional level 3 that can kind of loop around. It can be quite daunting to new players, and that's why the starter product has its own difficulty rating.
I'll tell you right now, if one of them shows a Xander Luxem deck, they're disqualified. We're kicking them out
Ooh.
immediately. Don't want to sell anybody short that is looking to play Grand Archive, because there's so many strategies available, and if you want to put the effort into it, the world is your oyster here. Don't forget to talk to your opponents, ask what they're doing, ask how you can improve, what they're thinking about as they're playing, their card selection. Ask those questions. People, this is the beauty of these smaller card games, is we all know that the game will only continue to be successful if we help make it be successful. It's a community aspect to it. It's a point where you really need to be sure that you're helping promote the game and bring in new players and incentivize them to continue to show up. So people are really good with providing information and advice, and I'd say just leverage your opponents.
I think we should jump in on the tables. We've got 22 minutes ish. We should go see what people are cooking up. So, would you like to introduce your deck, your champion, and what the premise is going to be?
Yeah, sure. So when it comes to the idea of trying to introduce somebody to the game, right, and having somebody that is like sitting down for the first time, you also don't know exactly what level of experience someone's going to have. But I didn't want to go with something that is just ultimately as like baseline as simple as you possibly can. I didn't want it to be on the level of like a starter deck or anything like that, or like a demo deck. I wanted to be able to hand somebody something that at least begins to introduce them to what they're going to see outside of a learner's table. So one of the most prolific, in my opinion, decks that has been around for a long time, that is also at its core a good introduction for players, is actually Wind Shadowstrike Tristan. I haven't decided if I'm going to go fully into the advanced elements things yet, because I think that can overcomplicate it. But one of the nice things that I see for Wind when it comes to new players is there are a lot of Wind staples that end up finding their way into a whole lot of other decks that also are able to explain to people, and also more importantly have a lot of reminder text on them. So that's one of the reasons that like Windmill Engineer, we see imbue in every flavor of deck at some point. Imbue is such a common mechanic, and Windmill Engineer is one of the most common ones of those. And thankfully, it includes that reminder text on it with that imbue too that explains how you need to do that. And that's kind of the approach that I'm taking with a whole lot of this is Reclaim is one of the actual few cards that is commonly played that actually has the reminder text for what floating memory is on it. It actually tells you what it does instead of just being this weird bold text at the bottom of the card. Similar with Fairy Whispers, we end up glimpsing a whole lot in Grand Archive, and we want that text on there of explaining to you. We don't want to just be like, do you know what Scry is for Magic the Gathering? Thankfully, a lot of people do, but we can't always rely on that as an approach for what we are actually doing, right? And so with Fairy Whispers out of the pack, it has that reminder text that explains this is what Glimpse does. The other reason I really like Wind is when I first got into Grand Archive, and I think a lot of people can have this similar experience, is that when you're trying to level up, you just run out of cards. And if you are out of cards in Grand Archive, you don't get to play the game anymore. And the Wind engine is one of the more efficient engines to be able to still maintain influence. And then we get, like one of the most iconic cards in Grand Archive, we get Ace and Protector. I'm a little nervous about him because the way that on-enter trigger works can be a little confusing at times. But that's also where, we want to be able to play big, cool creatures. And then Tristan, also one of the most iconic champions. I mean, this is the deck that won Worlds last year. Don't know if we're going to that level in terms of the final build, but Tristan's really iconic. She's one of the many faces of, like, the primary forward faces of the franchise. And then also her mechanics in terms of building up preparation counters. It helps maintain that influence. So you're not sitting there at level 2 with 2 cards in hand going, I don't know if I understand this game, and I kind of feel like it's not my game. Because if you can't play the game because you're out of cards, that doesn't feel very good. And then otherwise, a couple other really heavy staples that we see in Grand Archive. Dream Fairy, in my opinion, one of the best cards in the game because it just lets you get problems out of the way. It also introduces us to the concept of stealth, and again, Dream Fairy has that reminder text on it. And then Veiling Breeze, again, super iconic, one of the most common cards in almost any Wind deck, helps us stay alive, especially when you're trying to fumble through learning the game. So this is kind of the core that we're starting with of this is what I think that a lot of people will be able to take from and learn. We don't have a way to win the game yet, and that's where I'm looking at, like, do we just want to go with a pretty clear slice and dice combo, but slice and dice on its card doesn't explain what prepare means, whereas Thieving Cut does. You're not going to be able to win as quickly with Thieving Cut, but it says what you can do. It's about halfway there. Got to figure out what type of material deck stuff we want to throw in there as well, because I want to be able to introduce some of those basic concepts. We're going to be able to fully present to somebody that doesn't overwhelm them, but lets them feel like they have a presence at the table in a 1v1 locals environment without just feeling they're getting steamrolled by everything else.
You made some very great points, some points that kind of came up during our chat as well, and it's clear that you've kind of been through this before, that you've built decks for locals whilst growing like your local scenes.
As far as a level 3 deck that you'd hand a new player, I think Tristan is a solid choice for a couple reasons. For one thing, the majority of the deck is not involved with the level 3 aspect of the character. Really, you're going to level 3 to finish the game. The bulk of the cards in the deck are for level 1 and 2 primarily. I also like that you are providing people with a glimpse into what is so cool about the memory system. Veiling Breeze, you're looking at Windmill Engineer are cards that show you that putting cards down means more than just putting cards down. There's other aspects to this that people need to consider. If I could ask one question for you and deter you from what you're focused on, is that I feel like this deck can get a little expensive, especially when you start looking at the material deck, and I'm curious as to how you plan on combating that.
So notably, Sadie is not here.
True. That helps. That
Sadie
helps.
is one of the most expensive pieces in Shadow Strike Tristan. Obviously, with the introduction of Lost Providence and stuff like that, that kind of drove up the price of the deck when it comes to its position on the competitive stage. Sadie, unfortunately, there is an alternative for, but I also don't think you need Sadie when you go to locals. You obviously want Sadie when you're going to a store championships, a regionals, an ascent, nationals, whatever, right? But I think that Sadie is just extra bonus. I don't think she is mandatory to win the game. And same would be said for something like Lost Providence, right? Like Lost Providence, even if we look at something like Grand Crusader Ring, which thankfully has gotten down to a much more reasonable price of like $20-25, there's other options, right? Like we don't have to go into getting a Shadow's Claw. It's nice, it does help you finish the game out, but you don't have to have it.
Well said.
Well,
All right.
awesome.
Well,
Yeah,
UK versus, we are halfway through the time already.
yeah, there's only 30 minutes left. Mosey on over to the other tables. Swan, I look forward to seeing what you finish up cooking.
Thank you.
How's it
Hello,
going?
Vanguard.
How are you guys doing?
That's what we need to ask you. How's the deck going?
Yeah.
Oh, I think it's going all right. I admit I went with
Ooh.
a tribal route because normally when players are getting new to a game, one of the easiest ways is to show them synergies without it having to be, for example, you had talked about reliance on keywords. Ace and Protector has intercept, but a lot of times you can just look at a slime and go, okay, well, this slime likes that I have other slimes. And so I decided it'd be a nice, easy intro to just go, I'm going to hand you a deck of slimes. If you have more slimes, it makes you happy. If you have less slimes, you want to get more slimes. And my lean was towards just going to levels 1 and 2 because we want to show the level up mechanic, but it can get confusing to show the level 3 and dealing with it with somebody's first game. Especially since Sylvie, Sovereign of Slimes, is a little bit awkward when it comes to the advanced element. That could be extra confusing, and the fact that Hera is a green that is sometimes mistaken for the green of wind. So I decided to only go to level 2 just so that you could show the mechanic and get yourself the ability to reach level 3 for something like a green slime because Pride is relevant to slimes. And then I just went the route of having things that care about being tamer and then just some general like everybody likes a Terrafring, Safeguard Amulet, you're going to see it all the time. But I mean, you're also going to see something like a Key Slime Pudding, which you just put in because you want your stuff to maybe get a little bit bigger this turn. Stuff like that.
I
Yeah,
like what
exactly.
where you're at with this. For one thing, you're utilizing a bulk of cards that are provided through a recollection deck that's on store shelves through the recollection lights. And on top of that, you've just added a fistful of commons and uncommons primarily here that everybody will have at their locals.
It feels good to have a board full of stuff. You don't want it to be fully cluttered, but if you have, I put in like the Slime Call Cyclone. Wow, words are hard. Specifically because like you can get a bunch of tokens and now you have a banner slime that you can tap to make those tokens bigger. So you can feel good by having 5, 6 allies in play, and that can be a lot for your opponent to stare down. So that you also get the good feeling of I have a good board presence, I'm playing well, I get to draw cards. Like you get all the benefits of a beginner's deck where you can win, you can do well, you can get a lot of cards, which are all the things that we want to do, but we're not having to think about counter magic or having to think about is there cards in the graveyard with floating memory. We're not going to get there yet. This starting deck is just the basic intro of here's the game, here's some of the synergies you can do.
Grand Archive, compared to some other card games, it's very easy for people to fall into a rut of decision paralysis, especially when it comes to laying cards down into memory or mapping at how you're going to sequence your turn. I think this deck gets around that and it just says play slimes, get rewarded, focus on the fundamentals of how this game functions, how you move through a turn, how interactions function, the stack, etc. Learn that, play some slimes, beat some people up.
That's been my hope with this so far.
Yeah, Grand Archive is definitely one of those games which falls into the on paper it's easy to learn, but it's difficult to master. It's fun, cute slimes that are helping fun, cute slimes, and they get to have a nice wide board, which players from other card games are gonna absolutely love, and new players coming in and go, "Ooh, fun slimes that help each other." It's very synergistic.
And that was kind of my hope is that you can just go, okay, some of these cards care about things like I'm showing Brisk Windtrotter here. It has a section that says, okay, you have to be level 2. I want some of those mechanics to still exist. I do still want them to see things like on Slime Shield, how it does say class bonus. We don't want the player to play an entire deck where they don't know what any of these things mean. So we want to dip the toe in, but we don't want it to start going down the road of explaining why something with taunt and floating memory can be really good. For the first time of somebody showing up and we're going, hey, we'd love to get you into Grand Archive, you should try this game. I think that this is something that somebody could sit down with and understand pretty quickly. And the decision paralysis does get a little bit easier when you're either playing slimes, protecting your slimes, or buffing.
You have less than 8 minutes to fill 8 slots left in this main deck, so we need to probably let you
Yep.
go here and get back to it. It's looking
Sounds
good.
good to me. Thank you.
Hello, Gandalf. What magic are you?
Pretty much already done brewing. I'm just plating currently. I will be serving up wild growth feline with slimes as the base around it. I have deglazed my pans with the slime so that we can really get as much of the wild growth feline flavor as possible. Additionally, it has a bunch of other supporting accoutrements with it. There's a small package for music because what's food without music?
Even when it
Oh
made
my
a
gosh,
sideboard,
we're Allen Gaming.
nobody asked for a sideboard.
Oh, I figured that was like a side dish. You know, I needed to present the main course with the appetizer, if you will.
Yeah, it's got to come with chips and salsa, right?
Yes, and of course the waiter is the good boy Alan.
I love to see it.
So, what makes this a new player-friendly deck outside of like the food puns?
So for the most part, it's just go wide strategy. A lot of play dudes, turn them sideways, but there's a little bit more intricate play with having to utilize as many ways to gain buff counters, but also teaching players both the intercept keyword and the taunt keyword and the differences between the two, using both baby gray slime and baby silver slime. Additionally, there is a lot of floating memory, so it also helps teach new players the importance of having ways to pay for like level 2 Allen or other costed things in your material deck. Additionally, there's quite a bevy of protection with like slime shield, as well as ways of innate buff counters being other forms of protection. Additionally, it includes Bedivere because Bedivere is like the rock of playing Tamer. Anytime you play animals or beasts, you generally have to include Bedivere. But also because you have Alan being level 2 and potentially level 4 with his ability, you actually do get off a lot of these class bonuses that are level 3 plus with like the limitless slimes on attack trigger and Bedivere's on death trigger.
I am a little surprised to see you put Alkahest in a
Yes.
material deck for a new player.
Yes. So I figure with Alkahest, you're going to be seeing it naturally anyways, and you do get to use the benefit of the level 4 plus.
Mhm.
Additionally, it's a brew, so I figure anything that has to do with a potion slightly might be fun for players, even though you have no potions whatsoever in the deck.
Yeah. Shows of other options for people to build towards in the future.
Yep.
Well,
And there's also additional ways to get levels in the material deck
Mhm.
itself with Bee Spawned Ears and Effigy of Gaia. Additionally, you have to have Key Slime Pudding because that's like the dessert.
Of course. No, I love the Beast Bondiers. As somebody who has played, I don't play it anymore, a lot of Horse and Taxes. And
Yeah,
I love running my level 3 into a counter and saying, you countered it, cool, here's some ears, good luck. I still can swing with these horses, so I love seeing that there as well.
absolutely. It's a good idea.
Cool.
well, there's 2 minutes left.
All right.
We'll let you to finish your garnishing, and we'll
Yep.
see you on the lobby in 2 minutes.
Absolutely.
I am a little surprised, and some things were a little predictable. Seeing wind as the element of choice certainly makes sense, and it's an easy one to align to. I really thought we'd see some fire though, because I think if you're taking people that play other card games and you're showing them this, I think it is like a moth to a flame when you show them creative shock. I get to draw two and discard, and maybe the thing I put in my graveyard I can use later is a card that I just think speaks really well in a way that's simplistic, but shows that there's depth here to explore. But I think Wind is a fine choice too. Some of these decks are, I think, a little more ambitious than others, and the direction people are taking is wildly different. But what do you think?
The cost factor, like you brought up when we were talking to Swan, is a absolutely key thing here because a new player has to be able to get this when they might not be fully sold on the game yet. With 30 seconds left to go, my biggest worry with Pride is I've seen a lot of players on Sandbox just go into swing. Is like you can't because of Pride, and they go, oh yeah, they just forget because they have creature down, they swing with creature.
It's a terrible feeling too. Think you have it, you think you've mathed it out. Turns out this little keyword here just happened to be overlooked, and it's now ruined your strategy.
That is time on the round. I hope you've all got your dishes done.
Absolutely.
Little salt, little pepper. It's ready.
We had a lot of fun coming in looking at your builds. Before we get into it, what did you guys think of the prompt?
I think it's really digestible. It also makes you. It's. I think it's really important for people that have more experience that have played in Ascents, because like me and Vaughn God have played in 3 Ascents and in a Nationals. Gandalf is 1 Ascent less than the rest of us. That we have a pretty strong understanding of the game, but do we still remember what it's like to not have a strong understanding of the game and what things confused us that we wouldn't exactly immediately want to throw in front of somebody who is either new to the game or might be new to TCGs as a whole?
Tackled this prompt directly. I know that Schwan himself has made at least 2 decks that were specifically meant to set down in front of somebody and go, you're trying out the game, here's the deck that you can learn the game with, specifically so that we could have this intro for people.
I mean, additionally, it's an important prompt in general for all TCGs, because the goal really is to grow your community, and what better way to grow the community but than to build things that people can understand immediately.
Gandalf, we know from coming to the tables you were finished first. Would you like to present first?
Yeah.
Talk us through your new player-friendly win deck.
Okay, so I have made for everyone Wild Growth Feline. Wild Growth Feline is immediately an attractive card for new players who doesn't like a cute small animal that tends to get out of control if not checked. The quickest way to teach players about go wide strategies with Wild Growth Feline, in my opinion, is to surround it on a base of slimes. With Baby Gray Slime, you teach new players Intercept. With Baby Silver Slime, you teach new players Taunt, and on death triggers and on enter triggers, respectively, from both. With Limitless Slime, you teach them about class bonus level bonus as well. You teach them about floating memory, which is all too important. First, you'll be seeded by Sylvie, but your server will be Alan. Now, Alan will help you find additional benefits to running slimes in the form of harmonies. A lot of harmonies benefit from being tamer as well, and who doesn't like music to go with their delicious food? Aside from the slime and harmony melody package, you have standard things that would go well with your bed of tamer, that being reclaimed to help protect the little bits that you want to keep chewing on over and over again and keep coming back to, the little bits of flavor, as well as Bedivere, because who doesn't like having a good meal on a nice bed of veer? Additionally, you have Stifling Trap, because sometimes there are scents in the area that overpower you when you're trying to really captivate the meal that you have in front of you. And Stifling Trap helps you ignore the extra smells coming from the table to benefit your meal that you are eating yourself. Additionally, out of the material deck, Alan will be wearing the standard outfit of Beast Bond boots, paws, and ears, with the ears being the key. It helps you gain those additional levels to trigger off things like the Limitless Slime's level 3 ability or Bedivere's on death trigger. Aside from that, we run Effigy of Gaia. Sometimes, as a go wide strategy, you just go against a wall of your other opponents being go wide as well. And so you get to teach players the crucial keyword of cleave and how incredibly broken it is. Additionally, there's a little bit of an Alkahest as well, just so that you can wash down things that may stick to the roof of your mouth that you don't want to stick there. There is the melodious flute that Alan will be playing next to your table so that you can benefit from these beautiful songs while eating your meal. Grand Crusader's ring is once you come into the restaurant, they give you one of these automatically just so that you can feel welcomed in such a high end place. For dessert, we will be serving key slime pudding, as well as a Viridian protective trinket to make sure that your slimes are not too watered down. Now, as the side dish, we've decided to use poultry. We went with trained hawk because it has true sight and vigor. It allows you to, being an animal, get buffed from some of the benefits like Bedivere that allow you to take down your opponent's animals, being Cheshire Cat and the other sticky stealth creature, Cheshire Cat. Additionally, in the side there is the Anthem of Vitality. Sometimes you feel like you're about to give up on the plate, and you just need that little bit of oomph to get over the edge. The Anthem of Vitality, once you hear that, it helps you just buckle down and finish what's in front of you.
I mean, the puns and the references to cooking are much appreciated by myself.
How soon into this game do you think you're gonna have to disappoint somebody when they try and play a second Bedivere?
Ooh, so that would be one of the key things off rip. This helps you, helps new players learn what unique means.
I think this is interesting. I question this as a new player deck, as I think that taunt intercept, while these are two things that are very valuable to understand the difference between the two of, I worry that two cards that look so similar being in the same deck and having abilities that on the surface look quite similar but play differently could be a problem.
Let's see the same dish with a different twist. Let's head over to Vanguard.
I started with a similar base for mine, but I decided to go with a little bit more home style goods version, which is just actually slimes. The entire goal was a player could enjoy just learning the game the old fashioned way of we're just going to play cards, and when we see each card working together, they all kind of make this nice little mixture. You start seeing how the ingredients come together and create a very delicious dish. So we started with a little bit of our, slime package of if you play a slime and you show a slime, you get more slimes. We have a little bit of a buff slime going on. We have the ability to dig for more slimes because everybody just loves having slimes in a slime deck. Forest Cake is kind of a classic, even in non-slimes decks. We're seeing it running around. A little bit of an option for buffing the allies when you need to get through to some more damage. Again, a little bit of an intro to class bonus, level 1, level 2, floating memory. A little bit going on there. I still wanted it to feel like I recall when I was learning some of the card games when I was starting. Sometimes it just feels good to like have a nice board of things, like a nice group of creatures all in one playmat. So I went specifically with having some tokens, having a bunch of baby slimes showing up through Slime Party and also through our Slime Call Cyclones over here. Uh, Added in some little bits of things that will be relevant later. So we did have one interceptor through Ace and Protector. For the starting players, there's a little bit of like, it's interceptor, it's big, but if they are already used to some gameplay, they can also go, oh, I bet if I bounce one of these two slimes, it would be really good with this Ace and Protector. So you can start instilling some of the value packages that people tend to run. A little bit of brisk wind trotter, make your slimes a little bit bigger. I did include one Pride 3 ally specifically because I am only going to level 2 Sylvie, and that would allow for the option for the Beastbon ears or the Flute of Taming, specifically something that shows like, hey, you can toy with the level mechanic a little bit here. So you can understand exactly how that side of things works. Added in Reclaim, again, protect your own stuff. You do get the introduction to floating memory. I did like putting in Rousing Slime because it does get you to untap your banner slime so you can just smack for really good amounts of damage. Slime Shield is a classic. If you're playing slimes, you want to be able to protect your slimes. I went with Sylvie's level 1 and 2 because I felt like going to level 3 would cause some confusion once we get to advanced elements, and the fact that Sylvie Slime Sovereign does go to multiple elements, which could be confusing, and I didn't want to get that involved. I added in Slime Pudding, Slime Nexus, just some like general tamer specific cards so that they can understand how all these cards synergize. did run Terraforming, Safeguard Amulet. They're kind of a classic. There are some eccentricities that you learn by playing these, because learning that Safeguard Amulet can stop something like a Burst Asunder is a little bit of a new player mechanic that can be very relevant. Grand Crusader's Ring, you do want to show people what Divine Relics are, but also we don't need to get as confusing as something like the Looking Glass. And in general, my goal was that they're going to sit down, they're going to have a bunch of stuff in play, and they're going to be pretty happy with what they're seeing. And as was pointed out by Murgle, most of these cards are commons, uncommons, or from one of the Recollection decks. Most of this deck, you could just buy a Recollection deck and get the rest of the cards donated to you by players in the room.
I do like the Sylvie level 2 because if someone's been playing another card game before, they understand drawing a card is fundamentally one of the most powerful things you can do in card games, and Sylvie lets you draw 2, which is always a good feeling.
So, one thing that I'm a little surprised to see here is we're not playing baubles. I feel like
Yeah,
this deck would be great with baubles.
it was a consideration. I'd happily move some cards around, but originally my thought process was just showing people some of the other mechanics
Hmm.
for the basics of like how you can utilize specific cards from your material deck for a multitude of purposes. Because my thought process was specifically something like Sylvie with the pack and GCR is a really strong start for if you just need to draw a card. And then if they go, man, I wish I could get more card draw, then you go, well, I'm so glad that you said that. Let me introduce you to things like Backup Charger and Baubles and some of the other cards that kind of level you up into the next section of gaming.
We've spoken about this already, but I do want to emphasize I do really like that this deck leverages the recollection deck for Sylvie as a core part of it, as we do want to make sure that we're supporting our local game stores. And if you happen to be at a store that carries those and still has them, I'm sure they love to move it off the shelf. So I think this is a great place for people to start and get themselves familiar. And I think this also levels up quite nicely into a level 3 Sylvie deck. If they like what they're seeing, they want to take it a little bit further. They've already got the bulk of those cards from the Recollection deck. So I think this is a great place for people to begin.
Let's see what team leader and all around good guy Swan has built.
So you have just been presented with two beautiful dishes off of the kids menu. But now it's time to see what the adults are being offered when they sit down to eat. So slimes are cute, slimes are fun, but what we want is we want players to be engaged with the core of the game, and we want them to see what else they can do, and we want to see them come back. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the deck that won Worlds 2025, take it down a couple of notches, take a little bit of the price tag off of it, and serve it up in a way that are going to make people want to see what else they can do within this game. We're going to start with the main core of the material deck itself. So obviously we're starting with Spirit of Wind, and we're going to go into Tristan. So Tristan, level 1 through 3, one of the most iconic champions in Grand Archive. She also is important because she introduces us immediately to one very common mechanic, and one that continuously keeps on getting more and more attention. So preparation counters, we're going to see the introduction of counters being applied to our champions. Now, that's the one thing we have to keep track of, but it's going to let us do so many more fun things with it. Importantly, and you're going to see a theme throughout this deck, is the importance of reminder text to help educate and introduce our players to the mechanics that they are going to be engaging with. So Tristan level 1 gets us that prep counter to do things that we'll see later in the main deck, and then agility 3 so that we have that ability to continue up our interaction. Tristan 2, very standard, helps us draw some cards. We're going to be able to immediately see that game plan if we want prep counters to draw cards, keep up that influence. And we did go ahead and go all the way to level 3, Tristan Shadow Dancer, one of the most iconic champions in the game, and that just lets us see that full spread of what Grand Archive has to offer. What is this? Why is she a different color? She's got these crazy abilities next to her. Level 3s are one of the core things that entice players into this game, and from this chef's perspective, I did not see any world where we can't introduce a level 3 if we are trying to bring in and introduce new players and entice them to come back not just next week, but the week after, and maybe participate in store championships or something moving forward. Chef Myrtle, you mentioned baubles. We wanted all 3 baubles. You might need a little bit of help understanding why you can use one and not the other, but that's going to help us introduce and understand lineages, seeing that there is a spirit underneath that stack of champions on your opponent's side. The rest of it is pretty standard fare for being in a regular environment. Smoke bombs, because we're going to be attacking a lot. We're going to be introducing stealth and seeing how that can interact with a defensive board on the other side of things. Terrafring to get yourself introduced on a defensive scale. Also, probably one of the most played cards in the entire game. Windwalker Boots is a very accessible and low-cost staple into the Tristan build. And I really wanted a backup charger effect. It just so happens that Purifying Thurible does that effect and is one of the lowest entry points and the least confusing. I didn't want to go with something like Prism Spire, Scepter, or Pretentious Tengu because they have effects on it that don't make sense with what the rest of the deck is doing. We're here to educate, entertain, and engage. We don't want to confuse. So Purifying Thurible, it allows us to introduce people to that very common setup of I'm going to materialize this and immediately use it before I recollect and begin with the rest of my turn. And it also gives them a little bit of fight against if somebody is doing something in a graveyard strategy, because we want somebody to sit down and feel like they have a legitimate chance against somebody at their locals that might be playing something that is actually a competitive style deck. And I added one weapon, which is the Emergent Dagger, so that we can see how that interaction works, having that ability to fight back on your champion's level, even if you don't have an attack card in hand. Specifically went with Emergent Dagger over Assassin's Ripper, because Assassin's Ripper has a little bit of a confusing approach to it, the way that you rest the weapon to be able to increase its power. Emergent Dagger just says, hey, are you level 2? Awesome. You got a stronger knife in your hand. But with that, let's move over to the main deck. I will start with the only piece that I am genuinely hesitant of, and that's because this card went up in price. But Fluffy Shopkeep is normally a much more accessible card. You'll see a trend, as I mentioned, every single card in this deck, with very limited exception, if it has a keyword on it, that keyword is accompanied by its reminder text. So we do have 2 interceptors in here with Fluffy Shopkeep and Ace and Protector. Both of them say intercept, and both of them tell you what intercept does. You can use this ally to block for your champion. We're wanting to try to keep to things that players are going to see everywhere they go. As much as possible, we want to see, hey, I recognize that card. And if they go into another deck, if they go play against Win Allies, Win Crux Lorraine, if they go somewhere else, we want them to be able to immediately begin recognizing cards. Fluffy Shopkeep, Intercept, she helps us maintain influence, because one of the problems that I have seen and we experienced when we first got into Grand Archive is that people will just race to level 3 and then have no cards in their hand anymore. And they're like, I don't know how to play this game. I just feel like you get to level 3 and then you don't do anything, and then the game takes 3 hours and you lose. So, fun fact, I checked. There is not a single card in all of Grand Archive that actually has reminder text for what negate means. Not even Frostbind. I was very surprised to learn that knowledge. So this is one of those hurdles where we will want to try to have, as a community, the ability to explain what negate means. Incapacitate, I find, is one of the best and most important learning cards for Grand Archive, because it negates an action, which is not the same as a spell. It also helps introduce us to class bonus and why choosing your champion and then the cards that go in your main deck alongside that champion matter so much. Thieving Cut gives us something to do with those preparation counters, keeps our hand full, we use it, we get cards back. Tune-up, we want to be able to survive. It introduces us to recover, does not give us the reminder text to recover, but brings us in floating memory and explains what floating memory does, and also shows us new synergies, because it recovers 4 if you have an automaton ally, which we do have in the form of Sirocco Operative and Shimmercloak Assassin. Ace and Protector, I will echo what my fellow chef said about the importance of Ace and Protector and how, like, you get this big body that you can use. We want to survive, we want to compete, we want to be able to do things. So Calming Breeze accompanied by Veiling Breeze gives us that defensive package, helps us survive, and then gives us more floating memory, because we do want to get to level 3. But you've probably already made note that one of the most iconic means of getting to level 3 is not in the core of this dish, and we'll get to that later. Fairy Whispers, glimpsing is one of the most common ways that we do deck manipulation. It's one of the most common and iconic glimpse and draw cards. Gives us the full flavor text, says, hey, this is what glimpse is, this is how you do it. I'll echo Von God on Reclaim, gives us that little bit of interaction, gives us floating memory. Shimmercloak Assassin and Dream Fairy introduce us to stealth and the importance of it. You were talking about, Gandalf was over there about the importance of those sticky, stealthy creatures. The poultry might have the answer to it, but you have to draw the poultry, and I have to have the stealther, and it's important to see that exchange take place. Sirocco Operative is going to be our very poor stand in for Sadie, but it does give us that synergy with Shimmercloak Assassin and Tune Up so that we can try and get that value out of it all the same. Surveil the Winds is a good learning tool as well to see and show the difference between something that is slow activation and fast activation and includes that class bonus with reminder text for us to be able to continue up that education. Fitting all of that into Windbless Lookout as well gives us that prep for our game plan, gives us glimpse with the reminder text. Windmill Engineer introduces us to Imbue, which can be a very confusing mechanic, but it's such a prevalent mechanic, and this is one of the most iconic and prevalent imbue cards in the game. It's going to help us be able to present that as a whole. And again, with a lot of the theme here, wanting to maintain influence so we can continuously give the player the tools, the resources, and the time to learn and engage with the game. But what are we going to go to level 3 for if we don't have something cool to do when we get there? We're going to have Shadow Strike. It's going to be our ultimate attack. It's going to be that big finisher that's going to make them feel really good to go. Now, notably, there's some very important absences, as we talked about. So instead of it being a toolbox, I would like to show you that when you are ready to step up to the higher end refined dishes that our menu has to offer, what you can be adding on to your order to really get the full experience that Grand Archive has.
An absolutely solid deck. Like you said, you've focused on not only the keywords but reminder text on the cards.
I never thought about it, but this is really smart, and I'm going to assume that you did it on purpose. Is that what pairs really well with the baubles like we were talking about is fluffy shopkeep. If you want to show players that you can put all three of these in your sideboard, they may end up with a feeling of this is taking up two of my material deck slots for two baubles that aren't relevant against my opponent that I'm playing this round. Fluffy Shopkeep is a great resource to get rid of those in exchange for a card. I think that is super smart. Tune Up as well, I think is a great choice here. As I think as far as these types of options for fast speed, let's get some flow, let's recover a little bit, is so much more straightforward and does a great job of showing that there are synergies with subtypes in this game that people should be looking out for. So I do like that as well. And I think Swan, I think what I like about this the most, this is very much a Tristan deck. And you're going to level 3, but you're going to level 3 in a way that I think is really thoughtful and considerate of new players. Only 3 cards in here that are advanced element, and those are cards that are going to immediately feel impactful. People are going to enjoy playing, and they're really going to easily just naturally, by playing the game, seeing the benefit of level 3 advanced element. You get something with higher impact, but by only putting 3 in there, I think as we were talking about earlier, it really does kind of feel, Swan, like you said, like an ultimate. Here's that last big shining moment as I end the game. So I actually really like how this turned out.
Thank you, Chef.
Yeah, as you quite rightly said, you've built a Tristan deck that is, rather than building a new player friendly deck featuring Tristan, you've built a Tristan new player friendly deck, which is exactly what I was looking for. What we'll do now is we'll head over to the judge table. We'll have a brief discussion on the 3 decks without you there, and Murgle will decide, unfortunately, who is going to be banished from our memory as we move into round 2.
Well, we had some great decks there, didn't we?
Are there any that you're not too happy with, or are there any that you kind of had issues?
Yeah, let's talk about the bard in the room. So I am a Allen gamer. I have an Allen Pantheon deck. So before the Allen lovers come after me, just know, don't worry, I am a part of you. But when it comes to decks that I would want to hand new players, I think that Gandalf's Wind deck with Allen isn't quite where I'd want to place people. it doesn't feel like a deck that I think is easy to pick up and understand concepts for, primarily because of, frankly, Alan and Harmony and Melodies, as this is effectively an underbaked champion in the game where there's really just not enough payoffs for this synergy between Alan and these two types of cards to where I think it's going to be obvious to players really kind of what the point of doing all this is. And I don't think the juice is really worth the squeeze here for that deck.
On the other side of that, however, we have got Von God Vagabond with a quite expensive deck.
You know, it's got some expensive cards inside the material deck, but I think is something that I like even less about the material deck is that it's just not straightforward. It's got a lot of what ifs and cards that are not easy to understand and predict are the right things to get out. And I had spoken earlier about getting a sense of decision paralysis. And I feel like that material deck is trying to be smarter than it should be. And it's going to lead to players not feeling confident as to what they should be materializing on each of their turns.
Von Gods was amazing in the main deck. Like you said, it was just a Sylvie recollection that was adapted with a few more commons and uncommons. Very strong. Then we had Gandalf's, which was a bit more widespread, a bit more in depth, both having their own appeals and drawbacks. Personally, with both of them, I'm not a big fan of the Pride, as I mentioned before I went into
Mm-hmm.
like the back. It's it feels like a new player trap. Both did kind of find ways to show players, even though you can't get to level 3 champion, here's ways you can kind of cheat around your level for this Pride.
Well, and I think ultimately here, I'm going to have to eat my words. At the beginning, I made it very clear that I thought that going with a level 3 deck was the wrong direction to go here. Truth be told, though, I think Swan's deck is very well crafted and thought out. Von Gods, though, that material deck, while it is a bit of a problem, the main deck I think hums quite easily. And if you are truly somebody who is new to trading card games and you happen to have found Grand Archive, I think that that main deck for Von God is a fantastic place to start. I do worry a little bit about the baby gray and silver that are going on there, but they'll figure it out at some point and they play similar enough most of the time, and I don't think misunderstanding it is going to get you in that rough of a spot. I really do like that main deck, but whenever I look at these decks, I think Swans really does kind of stand out as a step above here, uh, which is a little unfortunate to say, but
It kind of came across as your star baker. It wasn't what you were expecting, but it was a pleasant surprise because everything that you kind of said, oh, this would be a trap for the deck, has kind of been like, oh, they've taken they've made a level 3 character, they've taken everything you thought would be a trap into consideration and found a workaround. They've put an ultimate attack in for the level 3, but they've put enough of it in that it's not going to be an issue or a hindrance.
isn't that poetic? Isn't that what always happens on these shows? It's a competition, and somebody looks like they're biting off more than they can chew, and somehow they come back, they pull it together, 11th hour, they make it happen. And I think that's kind of what we've got going on here. I think it's really smart, and just like I said with Von God, it's true for Swan. I like that we're not forgetting about the importance and the practicality of these recollection decks. Tristan has one. A lot of these cards can be found in it, and a lot of these decks can be found at your local game store. So that gets brownie points for me as well, gold star. And I love some Allen, but I think today's just not going to be his day.
It sounds like we've got a decision.
I think so.
We'll head back. I'll give a quick chat, and I'll hand over to you for the decision. Hello, chefs. Did you miss us?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So we've had a quick chat. You all did absolutely amazingly. You all brought your own flair and spice to this prompt, and I couldn't be happier with what you've kind of put here. But I'm not the person that makes these decisions, so I'll hand over to Murgle, who will unfortunately be banishing one of you from our memory as we advance to level 2.
Well said. Well, I want to start off by saying, Team Glimpse 6, I think you all have shown a real love and care that you want to put towards new players. It shows that this is a team of players that are here to make this game a success, make it successful in your region. And I think that is really kind of unique for the three of you. So well done to all of you. Now,
Thank you.
talking about the decks that we had here today, I'll go ahead and start with Swans. So let's start with you, as you were the one that we had stepped into the room with at the beginning. Swan, I was somebody who was apprehensive to the idea of a deck going all the way to level 3, as I wasn't sure if that's really where we needed to take players when they are new to the game. But somehow, in some way, you've presented a deck that I think actually is quite palatable and does show really the story of Grand Archive as leveling up a champion and finding an effect that is advanced element that feels impactful. It makes it feel like the juice was worth the squeeze. So well done there.
Thank you, Jeff.
Von God, I was really appreciative of the considerations you put into the price of the deck that you were bringing forward, especially when it came to the main deck. The material deck was a little questionable, but I do think a lot of care was thought and thoughtfulness was put into the main deck. I really liked what you were doing there. But again, I think the material deck needs a little bit of massaging there. And
Thank you, Chef.
Gandalf, I love some Allen gaming. Harmonies and melodies were something when I got into the game, I immediately were drawn to and wanted to brew around. Win or loss, I just wanted to see how it worked and see if I couldn't find some way to eke out some interesting interactions or some value that other people just weren't seeing in the cards. But I do think that the deck suffers ultimately from being an Allen deck that is trying to massage in some synergies with harmonies and melodies that feel ultimately underbaked. So, unfortunately, with that, Gandalf, you'll be the one that is leaving the tent today.
Yeah, chef. I had a great time here, and it was great to even be in the same room as all of you. And
Oh, we loved having you here.
I
Oh,
will never stop brewing.
such a joy.
Thank you
Oh.
all.
Thank you for being here, Gandalf. Absolutely amazing, as you said, and we hope to see more brews from you in the future.
And with that, I bid you all adieu.
Adieu. So, congratulations to Vanguard and Swan as we move into level 2. I've got nothing to really say about level 2 because this is now Merkel's domain.
We've seen that the two of you are very fond of wind decks, and we're going to be moving on. Let's start to think outside of the box and start playing some cards that are a little less conventional. For round 2, we're going to be focused on brewing up a storm. And we are going to be doing that with some hazardous ingredients by looking to come up with everyone's new and favorite Radiant Origins regalia, Essence Crucible, alongside Fire with our Asana. We're looking to brew up potions, add counters to Essence Crucible, and deal big damage with things like Fractal of Sparks, as well as Searing Rebuke. I will mention, as you're looking to come up with inspiration for this deck, there are some decks actually that recently have done okay at regionals and store champs. So if you're looking for a place to start, feel free to, but just know that I know these decks very well.
For a quick reference, Mr. Schwan, would you mind telling me what you're known for playing primarily at tournaments as of late?
Fire Dao-chan, primarily using Fractal Sparks and Searing Rebuke. Is that what you're getting at?
Well,
Von God, I will tell you, it does not take a rocket science to understand how to do that. So
no,
I
it's
think you
fine.
got it.
I heard the prompt and I went, all right, I know I know what that list is starting with.
Yeah. Well, now you know where he's headed, so maybe you go the opposite direction.
Absolutely.
Exactly. It's not just about giving the basics. Like anyone can make a souffle, but we want a little bit of delicacy. We want something that whets our appetite. Going, oh, we didn't think of that. If you're just doing the same thing as everybody else, it's not really going to impress the judges.
My
Absolutely.
sensibilities do not always win tournaments.
You're not playing the game. You're playing Murgle.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
How are you feeling about the prompt?
Good, because I want this deck to exist. I like in
Yes.
general. Like I really want to see this deck, even if it's not mine or Von Gun's build. I really want to see a Fire Arizona Crucible deck do something.
I think we both do at this point.
Well, who knows? You could be building the world's winning deck right here.
All right, let's do it.
On, I'll start the timer. You'll have 30 minutes. Best luck.
Well, UK versus, I think I was a little cruel with this, but I was a little surprised to hear that Swan is actually somebody who likes to play these types of decks. So it seems like he might have a little bit of an advantage, but I will say he maybe should have undersold that a little bit, because now I know to expect a little bit more out of him compared to Von God.
I mean, Von God's the one that threw him under the bus, so it was Von God trying to get the advantage by showing that Swan knows what he's building.
Listen, Von God opened the door. Swan was the one that come barreling through, tipping his hat. So
Von God will have experience helping Swan and seeing the list, so also knows what's
against
going
it,
to be in.
this could be a level 3 deck too. And this is where I'm hoping, is that maybe Von God sees an opportunity here to really throw caution to the wind and try something entirely different. Because there are some synergies that people do not anticipate when it comes to level 3 with Arasana, Essence Crucible, and things like Searing Rebuke. There are other things going on here that I think could be interesting. I'm looking at things like Suffocating Ash as well, which is a card from a recent set that is Fire Exalted, that is negate. It's effectively a counter. Either you get the card countered or you take the damage, which I think could be really interesting here. But whenever we're talking about really kind of sensibilities and the direction of the deck, what I would appreciate is decks that frankly get the game over with. If you're going to go to level 3, if you go that direction, I want it to be a deck that does have a clear path to ending it. I would also kind of caution going too aggressive, as I think there's always an allure to just saying, I'm going to go, 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 fast, fast, fast. And that is an option here, and perhaps that is where somebody goes. But let's not forget that we're talking about a cleric here. Clerics oftentimes have ways to sustain themselves longer than other classes here, with things like recover and herbs. I think there is an opportunity here for Polaris as well, even if you aren't going to level 3 and utilizing it with Cosmic Bolts, still utilizing it to maintain board control. I think there's some interesting options here.
Well, that was going to be my question. If you don't go to level 3, you don't get the Cosmic Bolts, you're not doing the Star Calling as much as you would be in the level 3 deck. What does a level 2 deck's win condition really look like?
Arasana has some interesting things available to her, especially when it comes to fire. We're talking about things like Searing Rebuke and Fractal Sparks, where you can ping yourself for 1 and then they take damage. That, in combination with Essence Crucible, allows those Searing Rebuke triggers to deal a lot more damage. You have brewed 5 potions, you have 5 counters on your Essence Crucible. Now we're taking not just 3 damage for each damage that is dealt to you under Searing Rebuke, now you're taking 8. And you're able to stack that with things like potions that deal damage to a target. You can start to ping yourself with Fractal Sparks, ping yourself by sacrificing your potions. That damage is really stacking up quite quick. And then you're also looking at other cards that are available to clerics that can be useful as well. Looking at things like Cinderbloom Tinder as a way to deal additional damage whenever you gather. That is a standout automaton that only costs 2, has 1 power, 2 toughness. And that is a great way to get some additional damage in. And if you're looking to run a backup charger, great place to go ahead and sacrifice that backup charger and deal an additional 2 damage.
So we're just looking for lots of chip damage that gets amplified by the Essence Crucible.
You've got that right here. I mean, there's also some other things that people, I think, are not always expecting. Cinder Geyser is a card that is very popular in Daochan. It is a 4-cost fast cleric spell reaction, but says as long as an opponent has 4 or more cards in their memory, it costs 2 less. So you're looking at a card that at certain times will cost 2 at fast speed that deals 4 damage innately. And if you do have your Essence Crucible out, you're just stacking on damage beyond that 4. That is a lot of damage for a cheap price.
Is there any traps or things you don't want to see?
When I'm thinking about cards that I really don't want to see here, I think what I'm really not wanting is a focus on allies. This needs to be a spell slinger deck.
Yeah.
Let's not be shy about what we're building here. Let's brew some potion. Let's draw a bunch of cards. For people who are viewing that are familiar with Magic, apologies for people that play other games, not as familiar, there is the concept of storm. You're playing a lot of spells, you're drawing a lot of cards, and ultimately you're getting to a point where you hit critical mass and you kill in one big moment. And that is effectively what this deck is looking to do. Brew your potions, play your slash and burns, gather a bunch, brew more potions, stack up those counters on your Essence Crucible, and then go for that big game-winning moment where you're dealing a ton of damage. And UK versus, I will tell you, this week at my local, I played this deck myself. Turn 3 against my opponent, I dealt 30 damage. So it's there.
It's
If you
there.
can make it, if you can make the stars align, the damage is there.
Magical Christmas Land exists.
Yeah, and I think that's the fun of this is that you are playing a deck that has variance outside of your control. Sometimes you're just going to draw the right cards, sometimes you're not, but you're here for a short time, not a long time. Let's get this game over with. Either I'm going to have it or you're going to have a way out of it.
Exactly. Now, I don't know if it exists in Fire because Fire is quite an aggressive symbol, but the big thing I'll be looking for on these lists is because the focus is on Essence Crucible, I'm looking for cards and regalia that protects Essence Crucible because Fracturize is a thing and it just shuts it down.
Yeah, and you're hitting on a critical part here is that you're going to have to be ready for interaction. And that can look very different compared to who you are and what your sensibilities are. Some people are going to look at cards like a null spell, which will negate a spell, but they're able to pay enough. If they pay 3 or more, they can get around it. Obviously, here we're a little bit all in on Essence Crucible, and I would suggest people don't look to that as their way out, and they start to look at other cards like Obscured Offering, which is a norm card that costs 2, and it says, as an additional cost to activate the card, banish 2 cards from your material deck. At fast speed, it says target regalia gains spell shroud until end of turn. That's the card you're going to want. You're going to want that in your main deck. If you're not running it in your main deck, I don't think you're winning. Let's not go ahead and say that game 2 is where we're going to have it. Let's make sure we have it in right from the get-go in game 1.
Yeah, if Essence Crucible is your win condition, why are you sideboarding in protecting your win condition? It's if you're up against another fire deck or wind deck, you're sideboarding it out, not in.
Yeah. We need to play like we mean it.
Exactly.
We gotta play our deck from our chest.
So that'd be one of the key cards you'll be looking for. That's extra brownie points for the chef
Absolutely.
that is running that.
You really thought about what this is actually going to look like when you're seated across from someone.
Exactly, and it's like what I was saying in the main lobby. The deck doesn't need to be good; it needs to follow the prompt, and the prompt was win games with Essence Crucible. If you're not protecting Essence Crucible, you've not followed the prompt.
You're not winning games. You got it. You got it. You already know how this deck plays. I can already tell.
Let's head over to Vanguard and let's see what they're cooking up.
Sounds good.
Hello.
Hello, Vanguard. So, where's your deck going?
Oh boy. In a panicked direction, I would say. So the lean that I've gone towards so far is I've been wanting to use your base card draw engine based on Angelic Attendant, Library Witch, and in this case, leaning towards Decompose and Cremation Ritual as
Ooh.
uses for getting rid of them. So you can draw your cards off of them dying. Cremation Ritual obviously keeps your influence pretty high. Decompose, though, allows you to gather so that you have more ability to get herbs. Same thing with things like Tend the Land. It can allow you to get more herbs. My lean so far has been towards Combustible Potion and Distilled Water. I'm trying to see if there's more that I'm after, but I haven't hit that yet. I am keeping the Fractal Sparks and the Searing Rebuke. That's such a good combo. I've leaned towards Ignite Fate because Combustible can allow me to throw cards into the yard, so having a little bit of floating memory is never bad to have. It also is a
Sir,
spell.
is that perdition?
Yes, it is.
Oh my gosh.
So my thought process was you play Perdition, if your opponent has a board, and then you also can play Polaris,
Yeah.
and then you can pop it, blow it up, and the perdition hits them for a bunch of damage because of the mixture of perdition with the other piece. But the one thing I need to check is this is coming from a spell, but I think that gets added to the ally. Is the one thing I'm uncertain of.
Yeah, it's an on-death ability,
Yes.
so it comes from the ally, not from the spell.
Darn.
Yes.
Okay. Well, then we will have to take that back. The other one I was considering, which is still sitting here on the sideboard, is Innervate Fury, because that's also pay 3, deal 7 plus whatever the Essence Crucible is. Yes, you de-level, but that might be okay if you're going from 2 to 1. Man, I may
To
have to
your
take back the
allies.
perdition.
Okay. So you're worried about allies here then. It looks like you're
A
wanting to do a
little
lot of
bit.
damage.
Yeah, a little bit. I have been so my current leans have been towards Zin and towards Perdition. I'm going to be removing Perdition because it doesn't work quite the way I wanted.
Mhm.
But Zin also just is essentially making a bunch of fractal sparks. In terms of our material deck, I'm going to 1. I'm debating on 2, but currently at least 1. Essence Crucible. My primary deck that I pilot right now is Genbu, and boy howdy does it suck when your opponent plays a Crucible and then it gets fracturized immediately.
Yep.
So I put in Quicksilver Grail to lean towards protection, ingredient pouch for gathering, Polaris for allies, sensor because we are not going quite as big as some of the other decks are going to go, so we can hurt their floating memory. Due to the choices I've made so far, backup charger needs to come in because you need to have some way of drawing cards,
Yep.
and that is a little bit low. Infernal Vessel because we don't want somebody recovering out of the damage we're doing. Enfeebling Orb to try and get ourselves a turn where we can potentially Alpha Strike. And Everflame Staff because it can do the same tricks that you're already doing with Essence Crucible. Just
So the angelic attendant with
Yeah,
advanced imbue.
that's
I'm
what I was
curious as
going
to
to ask
how you
about.
intend on.
I don't intend on it being an interceptor
Ah,
for very long. It is strictly there to draw a
strictly for
card
the card draw.
for the
Yeah,
So,
decompose and
oh,
for the cremation ritual.
okay.
The
understood.
intercept would be cute, but it's not needed here. Yeah, because if you decompose it, you gather 3 times and draw a card.
Mm-hmm.
And the
That's
cremation
more where
ritual
my
is
lean
just
has been.
draw 3 cards, which is value.
Correct. So it is not going to get the intercept at all
Understood.
in my current build. I am sure that there's a way that you could start putting in advanced element potions and things like that to try and give yourself that oomph, but I didn't get that far.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see it over fluffy shopkeep though.
Oh, that's valid. That's not a bad choice.
Sorry, not to help you with the
No,
deck.
no, that's
So
that's part of what you're here for.
yeah, yeah. I need to lead the witness a little bit here.
That is just fine. I'm perfectly happy with criticisms and advice.
Absolutely. So one thing that I would point out here too, and this is the last bit of advice I think I'll give,
Yeah.
but Fertile Grounds is super cute with Zen.
Isn't that
Or not Fertile Grounds, sorry.
uh,
Floral Arrangement.
oh, I am definitely down for that. And guess what? It
As
is
that makes the 2 flowers that Zen just happens to be after.
well, I think I'm gonna have to take that brilliant advice.
Well, with that brilliant advice, we'll leave you to now rework the deck around the information that has been given to you by the judge, and we'll go see Swan and give them no information whatsoever.
He doesn't need the help. Don't worry.
Nah.
Hello, Swan. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. For there being almost 10 sets now of Grand Archive, I still feel like we don't have enough cards for certain archetypes the way that I feel like we should. Some things feel very heavily supported, and others I'm like, what do you mean there's only 17 cards that say Gather in Norm, Fire, or Astra?
Uh-huh. Yeah, welcome to my hell. And
Yeah,
yours
yeah.
today.
I'm just like, how do we have so few of these?
All right. You want to hear about a more innocent time within Grand Archive? Alchemical Revolution comes out, hits shelves. It's going to save us because the FTC was a bust.
Right.
And they come out with their first cleric champion. What is one of these synergies and abilities that they baked into this new exciting champion? If you have memory 4 or more, cards give you an extra effect. Yeah, those didn't do much, but that did take up a lot of what they provided Arasana right out of the get-go that maybe should have been attuned a little bit more towards gathering in the potions. So
Yeah.
yeah, so Swan, walk us through this deck and let's hear where you're at right now.
I'm starving is the problem. Good thing I'm cooking. So obviously we have the general build of Fire Asana. I haven't decided fully yet if I want to go to level 3. I haven't found a strong reason to do so, but I did want to keep that consideration on the table. Obviously, namesake of the challenge is Essence Crucible. Ingredient Pouch is a very heavy standard within any type of gathering. Polaris is it's such a good card. And then just our pretty standard affair, Terrafrang, Safeguard, trying to keep us alive. Infernal Vessel, I love Infernal Vessel so much. And Alcahest is just a nice, really good toolbox card. I haven't decided on my Divine Relic still. I personally really love Art of War. Like, people don't, in my opinion, give it enough credit for how actually disruptive it can be to a lot of people's strategies. So especially with this, as much as like people think that cards like Searing, like we talked about how I played Fire Dao-Chan, right? They're like it's an aggro tech, and I'm like it's not, y'all. Like it's not, and this will fit that same way, right? Of like, sure, you're gonna see aggro feeling cards, but it's not an aggro deck, so you got to make sure that you live long enough to do your things. So Oh yeah, Fractal Sparks and Searing Rebuke. There's a really common, really powerful combo of Cinderbloom Tender with Searing Rebuke, which was already good, and then you just get even more power if you have counters on Essence Crucible. Slash and Burn is such an incredible gather card. I want more of these.
Yeah.
Vermilion Decree is awesome because both, if you do Champion and Ally on the Imbue, Essence Crucible buffs both of those. Um, and then so floral arrangement, while it doesn't say gather and doesn't work with Cinderbloom Tender, it's just untyped floating memory. It's actually such a good turn one play. And it also, Silvershine and Phrasia are the exact two tokens that Zin turns into Volnia tokens to then, as a spell with the benefit of Essence Crucible, deal extra damage. Like, there's two different, like, there's like 3 different half combos in here, whether it's Fractal Sparks and Searing Rebuke, or Cinderbloom Tender and Searing Rebuke, or Floral Arrangement into Zin into Volnia with the Essence Crucible. And I'm pretty sure, unfortunately, there's going to be some times that you just draw the wrong pieces, and I don't think that that is something that's going to be easy to avoid. Cinder Geyser is a spell. Like, seeing somebody get Cinder Geysered for like 9 because of the counters on Essence Crucible is absurd. So this is the core that I have. Tend to Land is just kind of like a good value card without having to overextend. Creative Shock's still one of the best draw cards in the game. The only potion I currently have is Combustible Potion. I'm currently on the other screen looking at the brew options available to me, and I personally, I just don't personally like distilled water that much. Like, it does do the purpose of putting counters on Essence Crucible, but it also just feels like a card that at the same time does nothing. Like,
Yeah.
unless you're already in a good position, this card is dead, and I hate it. But there's just not many cards. I was
Yeah.
again on the idea of survival, was considering Potion of Healing, because like Recover 5 is not a irrelevant amount to recover. It doesn't replace itself, unfortunately, but I do like it as a potential option. I very briefly considered going into the Alchemist Cauldron because Soothing Potion is amazing, but I have also found, like, in what is already looking like it's going to be a little bit of a clunky way down the road, making it even clunkier with off-color potions is probably not the direction that we want to go. Also, for things like Slash and Burn that want you to have fire cards in your yard, probably not the direction we want to go. We want to lean as heavily into fire as we can, especially if we go for imbuing. 3 imbue is a lot. Slash and Burn wants us to have 3 fire cards in the yard. If we go Kindle in any way, I was considering Restoring Embers. Again, another recovery, bias time, uses up the resources that we're already intermixing with. Just trying to find the pieces that I think will really push us, one, to that 60 card count, which is getting harder, especially because, like, Library Witch, Cremation Ritual, like Stalwart Shieldmate, these are all really common things. Foraging Servant fits in there actually really well. I just wish she was fire.
Yeah. Same with distilled water.
Yeah,
Yep.
foraging servant into a cremation ritual, perfectly fine, right? But it's just like I'm already drawing the hands that have a whole bunch of norm cards and being like, oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So that's where we're at right now. I also considered Ignite Fate, untyped floating memory. It's a spell, benefits from Essence Crucible. It doesn't matter that it's not a cleric. You can also, it's slow, which is unfortunate, but you can like prereq Searing Rebuke yourself and then main phase the Ignite Fate. Something I was kind of playing around with because I want to be able to get to level 2 to be able to use those herbs, Essence Crucible, Polaris. Like, you want to have some floating memory available to you. Ignite Fate's another fire card. Yeah, I'm just putting it.
I fractalize Essence Crucible. Other than sad, do you have a response?
I had considered. Oh crap! What is the name of that card? Obscured Offering. I hate this card, but it's the best card that answers that problem. There's also the consideration of like a null spell or something like that to be able to try to protect it. Kind of been bouncing that around. The answers suck, though. We'll just be honest with ourselves right there. The answer is to try to keep this from getting fracturized, especially in fire. Not great, just not great. But that's the world we live in. When, despite having as many sets as we do after 3 years, feeling like we have a pretty anemic card pool at times.
I think he's got some work to do here, so we should let him be. I'm a little surprised to see both of them wanting to go to level 2 because looking at their list, I'm not seeing a lot of reasons to do it. I also look at 2 decks that I think don't have the time. There's a lot of things that need to get materialized in these decks to really get them to hum, and I'm not quite sure if they're going to really be able to do that or have really the amount of floating memory to go to level 2 either. I'm a little shocked.
We just see Swan going, my answer to fractalize is it exists, which is
Yeah.
not what we wanted.
I worry that Swan is making this a little too much of a fire fractal Dao-Chan kind of a list. I think he's relying a little bit too much on things that he believes to just be innately true that I don't think are really in the wheelhouse here for our Asana. I think Von God's approach with some defense is certainly more in the right approach. As, like I was mentioning, there's numerous things here that need to get materialized before this deck can really do a whole lot. And frankly, looking at the list of potions that are available in Fire specifically, the list is quite short, especially whenever you factor in ones that you would actually be excited to play. We're in a situation right now with Grand Archived where a lot of decks that are doing quite well have large influences. Looking at Wind Crux Lorraine, I'm looking at things like uh, Water Diana with Aetherwing. Also, let's not forget, we've also got the Wind Potion Razorgale deck. Oftentimes has a high influence. They've already got the cards. Their cards is by a singular card in a vacuum is just not that impactful. So giving them one more actually usually isn't that big of a deal if that puts us that much closer to ending the game on the following turn.
Let's get these guys back in and let's find out who's going to be
See what
our
they
winner.
got. Yeah.
Hello, Bakers. That is time on the round. You both had very interesting and contrasting builds when we came to see you. Let's see how these bakes have come together in the final few moments. How are you both feeling about the prompt?
I'm
Before we
feeling
run
all right. I got a little bit of stress about it, but I think that it's come together into something that I can happily recommend to somebody.
Torn. Like, I definitely feel like in the entire kitchen there aren't as many ingredients as I would like to find in the cabinets and in the fridge, which is just unfortunate. But I'm pretty happy with what I was able to bring together.
Kind of like cooking in a zombie apocalypse. Like you're using what ingredients are there rather than like the supermarket worth of ingredients.
Yeah, 30 minutes is not a lot of time either. So there was a requirement to get it moving quite quickly and not sit there and dilly dally too much on one card versus another. So curious to see what the two of you ended up with.
Yeah, and that's a lot of what I think we're seeing with this. And I think right now 30 minutes is just fine because you do want it to be a little bit stressful. You want it to be,
Yeah.
You have to hurry to put all the ingredients together. It can't just be, I threw it in the oven and we'll wait 2 hours to see what happens.
No, you want it to be
But that's also where your own skill is important, right? Because you need to have an understanding of the game, somewhat of the existing card pool, and understand how to search properly on index to be able to
Oh
find the
yeah,
cards that you
absolutely,
want.
absolutely.
I presented last time, so I'll happily present first this time.
sounds fair.
What a guy. All right.
So I definitely probably would have taken a little bit more time to make some tweaks should I have had it, but we make do with the time that we can to make sure everything is made to order. Like before, we'll start with the material deck. So base Spirit of Fire, I for just a small moment considered something the other spirits, put that aside. Our core Arisana level 1 and 2, I did consider level 3. We could stay at 1, but depending on how your game plan and stuff goes, I put to level 2 on the idea that it can gather us more for one of the combos we'll see in the main deck, as well as potentially giving us some card draw if we kind of stumble a little bit. Alcahest, the ability for the herbs to be able to sack to increase your level means even if you're at level 2, 2 herbs can get you to level 4 to make this something that you are able to actually be able to use. I elected for Art of War as my divine relic. I was going back and forth between Art of War or Grand Crusader Ring. Grand Crusader Ring staple draws us a card. However, Art of War, I love this card because it does such a unique effect of saying, hey, you need to slow down because I need you to slow down. A lot of people also forget that Art of War can be sacked to help pay for memory costs, which means that if you're still kind of hurting on cards or memory and you think you're ready to really start going for it, when you go to materialize your Essence Crucible, you can use the Art of War to pay for that Essence Crucible so you don't have to lose any cards. Same thing for like Polaris if we need it. The rest of the material deck's pretty standard. Essence Crucible, we're going to use our potions to get counters to make our other things do more damage. Ingredient pouch for herbs. Polaris, mostly for board control. If we pop this, we are going to be choosing to shuffle 0 Cosmic Bolts into our deck, but we'll be happy to use it to blow up the board. Safeguard and Tariff Ring for defensive options. Infernal Vessel to make sure that if they try to heal through everything, that option is significantly lowered for them. And then Everflame Staff is just like Everflame Staff and Essence Crucible, complementary. So much do they like one another because it deals damage as a spell, which means if you got some counters on Essence Crucible, Everflame Staff is getting bigger. Now let's look at the main dish itself. So there's 3 different combos that exist in this deck, which I think could inevitably lead to it being a little bit clunky depending on your draw. But like we talked about, you only have so much meat to be able to put into this dish, so you got to start playing with other ingredients in order to actually brew up the actual final product. So what I wanted to make sure that we had a game for influence management as well as to actually achieve everything else that we want to do. So we're going to open with floral arrangement, untyped floating memory, summons a silver shine, and a Phrasia token. That'll be important in a moment. Otherwise, we got a little bit of a gather package in here. Foraging Servant makes her return alongside Tend the Land and Slash and Burn are going to be our main ways that we're going to be gathering additional herbs besides the ones that we get from Arisana ingredient pouch. Now, with those herbs, we have a few different things that we can brew to get those counters onto Essence Crucible. As much as I'm not a fan of this card, Distilled Water, even if you don't have the ability to like put counters on Essence Crucible and start to build that up, Distilled Water says, hey, draw a card. It allows you to filter if you absolutely need to. And then we are also going to brew probably what is going to be the most iconic red potion going forward for a very long time, Combustible Potion, because it does give us that same filter effect as Creative Shock, and then later lets us do damage. Doesn't get the benefit from Essence Crucible, but that's fine. And then I added in a couple cheeky explosive concoctions for just a little bit. One extra brew ability. There's only 2 of them, and I chose these specifically because they're easier to brew. They are slow because it enters hindered, so you don't get the damage or the card draw right away. I'd considered Bottled Forge Light, but the requirement for that Razor Vine is just enough that I don't believe in its consistency compared to Explosive Concoction. We have that core combo as requested of Fractalist Sparks and Searing Rebuke. Sparing everyone explaining how that combo works, we'll show you what else you can do with it. So Cinderbloom Tender, says whenever you gather, deal a damage to each champion, which then you can combine that with Searing Rebuke to say, hey, I'm going to gather, I'm going to ping us both, but instead of me getting pinged at all, I'm going to throw up Searing Rebuke and send 3, 6, 9 or 4, 6, 12 damage at you, even if I only have one counter on Essence Crucible. In that same way, if we don't have that game plan available to us, then I still love the potential of Zin Volnia Abyss. I only have 2 because she doesn't do a whole lot if you're not ready for her. But she says if you'd summon a Silvershine or a Freyja, notably those are the tokens that Floral Arrangement generates for us, you get a Volnia token instead. And Volnia tokens you can sacrifice to deal damage as a spell, which feeds into Essence Crucible. It's a little hard to set up, but when it works, we got a couple of other nice little just tidbits, some little garnishes on the side. I wanted to be able to have more ways to, like I said, maintain influence. So Cremation Ritual is a pretty heavy staple in Fire of, hey, give up a guy, get a couple of cards. So we're looking at allies that have they've already done their benefit when they've entered, or we want them in the yard. Forging Servant, already talked about. She gathers. If she's in the yard, she's floating memory. Cool. Can pay for level ups, can pay for Essence Crucible, Polaris, or whatever else. Veteran Blaze Bearer, we're seeing such a wide meta. On enter, he gains taunt. He's a 2-3 for 3. Nice big wall. Again, we're wanting to slow our opponent down, make him take time, chew through the dish a little bit, let that spice build up. And so he only gets taunt for the turn that he enters. So afterwards, we can Cremation Ritual him on a following turn if he's still alive. If he's not, sounds like he probably did the job that we asked him to. I threw an Ignite Fate. Again, untyped floating memory lets us be able to play with our material deck without having to lose influence. It says deal damage to each champion, so you do have the potential of activating Searing Rebuke, using an Ignite Fate. It's going to use 2 of your 3 prevention from Searing Rebuke, but you still got 1 more in there. It feels great if you get 2 hits out of Searing Rebuke. 3 is a pipe dream, but 2 is already feeling good. So that's the entirety of our package. One last little piece of defense with Obscured Offering. Not a fan of this card either, but some people it's that nice little bit of sauce that lines the plate just to make sure that nothing gets a little bit too close to what you're leaning pretty heavily on in the form of Essence Crucible. We do have, instead of an opt-in package as before, this is actually a strategic package that is meant to try to help you deal with some problems. Smoke out, burn Cheshire, toast that cat if you need to. Say, hey, no cats in the kitchen, get out of here. Crystallized Destiny, this is going to be really good when you're dealing with problems like Water Diana or Oblation CL or even Seiryu if he's throwing those Arcane Blasts your way. A Null spell gives you some additional fight against things like Fracturize if you're having people really heavily target your Crucible. It can also hit Oblation CL, who's really popular right now in the format. Try and keep them off of the ability to, dome you for 15. Void's Cloak, really good against mill strategies, keeps you from being targeted by Dynastic Whirlpool, as well as Fractal Polar Depths. Just a good answer if you're against another slow deck that might be trying to take you out in a different way. And Verdian Protective Trinket as just that one final, please get lost to those water decks that are trying to ruin your fun.
No, absolutely solid deck. Seems like you, in the 5 minutes you had after we left, it all kind of came together in your head as to what you wanted those last few cards to be.
The guy that has taunt whenever it enters for the turn, that's a really interesting card to play, and I think actually makes quite a bit of sense here. I'm a little surprised to see Forging Servant, despite that being just one of my all-time favorite cards, as while it does give you float, it's a norm card, and I feel like we're running quite a bit of norm here. And I also see that you're trying to rely a little bit less on slash and burn, going the route of gathering kind of onesie twosie along the way instead with Forging Servant as well as Tinderlands. But you do, I think, need quite a few herbs if you're really wanting to brew. What is this? Looks like 9 potions in total. I wonder. I love the explosive concoction here as a card that I've just tried to make work so many times, and truthfully might actually be quite good here if you can survive long enough for it to awake on your following turn. I do think that is quite cool. I was talking about this earlier, but I wanted to bring it up and get your thoughts as well, since I know you do play Fire Dow Chant. Vermilion Decree. is a card that I think people are playing incorrectly sometimes. And I don't think people are leveraging the third modality of the card often enough. If you're playing a deck that is really trying to just go out all out on a single turn and just be that is the turn, you're planting your flag, I actually think that just having the opponent draw the card alongside you is really underutilized, as I do think it actually does work phenomenally well in decks just like this.
There is definitely something to be said for, hey, I'm going to Vermilion Decree, hit you, draw a card, and then Vermilion Decree again, hit you, draw a card, and just believe that doming them for 6 and the gas that you've given both of you, that your gas is going to burn hotter than anything that you've given theirs.
Absolutely.
That's a coin you flip, but it might be worth flipping.
I like flipping those types of coins. I think it aligns really well with this deck that I think with only having 9 potions in it may struggle sometimes to get the amount of charge counters onto Essence Crucible as you may need with just the cards that you have available to you. I think it's a smart choice and something that I think could work fairly well for what you've built.
Thanks, Jeff.
You've got experience with this kind of deck through your own play, and that's predominant through what you've built here. I'm really interested to see how this will contrast with Von God's build as we saw it when during the cooking step.
I started with the thought process, something along the lines of a mixture of the original Razor Gale, Razor Potions deck that's been running around, but also having a little bit of the Oblation package that people have been running, specifically to try and gain influence. So the route that I went was trying to have a package of having Fluffy Shopkeep and Library Witch mixed with Cremation Ritual for our card draw, but also to use Decompose specifically to try and get more gather. Specifically, something like Fluffy Shopkeep, if they go to block, you can decompose and gather 3 times, which allows you to be very explosive with your herbs. The goal being to dig deep very quickly so that you would have a large influence, and then you can start getting all of your potions that you may have drawn along the way. I did use a similar package as mentioned with the floral arrangement and the Zin, as well as the Searing Rebuke and the Fractal Sparks. I was trying to leverage a little bit of the draw and discard package that comes from Combustible Potion, and I didn't feel like I had the space for a Cremation Ritual. So I went with Combustible Potion and Ravenous Pyre to get a little bit of extra damage since that does count as a spell. And that allowed me to get access to Ignite Fate, which does damage and also has Floating Memory, as well as Floral Arrangement does create our Silver Shines and our Fraser tokens that goes with the Zin package that was mentioned prior. And then for just general burn spells, I went with Cinder Geyser because 2 damage for 4 plus whatever the Essence Crucible gives you is a pretty solid amount. I did also use Tend the Land for my own card draw. Fiery Interference because we don't want them recovering it when we can control it. We have the same Searing Rebuke setup and Vermilion Decree. Specifically, Vermilion Decree, when you have a large influence, it's not horribly hard to imbue, especially in your pre-recollection step. But in a deck like this, sometimes it's okay to just treat it like a demolition. Throw down 3 reserve and just deal 3 plus whatever the Essence Crucible gives you. And sometimes that can be enough to just say, that now has hurt you for 6 or 7. And that can close out a game pretty quickly. For material deck, I went with Spirit of Fire, Arisana 1, and Arisana 2, specifically to go with the Zen package as mentioned prior by Schwan. Backup charger to draw cards, I had to go a little bit light on the card draw package yet again. Sensor of Restful Peace, we don't want anybody to get too big too quickly if we don't have to. I went with Essence Crucible because it's pretty hard to build this list without it. Ingredient Potion to help grind our gathering. Nullifying Mirror, everybody has dealt with a high influence wind deck that just can Veiling Breeze their way out of everything. So I decided to go with the Nullifying Mirror in the main. If it's not useful, it can always be taken away by the Fluffy Shopkeep. Polaris to get rid of the pesky allies that can be showing up and getting us too much pressure too quickly. I went with Quicksilver Grail as my Divine Relic because I normally play Genbu. The last time that I played against somebody doing Razor Potions, they got very sad when they went to materialize. They put in their Essence Crucible, and before they could get to their Recollection step, I was able to Fracturize. And I wanted to play around that specific interaction as much as possible, so I went with Quicksilver Grail. Everflame Staff, just as Schwan mentioned, it's just perfect with Essence Crucible. They love hanging out together. Infernal Vessel, a little bit more recover hate. I went with Nullifying Lantern, can help against certain forms of fire mirrors, also Genbu. Safeguard Amulet helps against opposing burn decks, Burst Asunder, effects like that. Terrafring for a little bit more ally protection. If we need to start putting on pressure early, I put in Fanatical Devotee so that we can start being the one who is attacking early. And Crystallized Destiny for the same reason that Schwan had mentioned, getting rid of oblation problems, big Diana swings, things like that.
Yeah, and again, absolutely solid deck, but you've gone for more ally focused package with some draw synergy over the more spell focused package of Swan. Two very interesting approaches to the prompt and two very different ways to build this deck, and I don't envy Murgle having to make this decision.
It's super interesting the nuances here as to the sensibilities. I am surprised by Decompose being here, but I really would love to see how it actually plays. First and foremost, how it synergizes with something like Fluffy Shopkeep. That's great. But where I think it's could be really surprising is the fact that you have chosen 3 copies of Zen as a 4 toughness ally. I do actually think that could be quite smart because that is a lot of herb generation that will be going on. Obviously, you're missing out on the Volnias there, but that's not always really where you need to be. And the benefit here of using Decompose on Zen is that sometimes it's just hard to get enough fire cards into your graveyard for things like Slash and Burn, or if you're looking at other cards in here that use things like Kindle. Decompose over Slash and Burn. That is really interesting. It may not be a bad route to take and makes the Nullifying Lantern in the sideboard make more sense, as you're not leveraging your graveyard with fire cards nearly as much as Swan was. That's super interesting. I'd be really curious to see how this plays. I do question a little bit having that many decompose and that many cremation rituals alongside what are we looking at? 6, 10 allies in the main. That is a lot of ways to remove allies and not a lot of allies to remove. But
That's true. I did base it off of how Oblation tends to run, which does run a
Sure.
similar amount of allies.
The Ravenous Pyre here too is super interesting and not something that I would have thought about, but it is a spell. You're right.
I have played against our auspicious
Uh-huh.
Schwan playing the Shadow Strike Tristan deck that he previewed prior in
Yeah.
I believe it was a Revel Fest or a Store Championship, and he went turn 1, play 2 Ravenous Pyres, and I went, well, it's gonna really be difficult to get to level 3 as a Tristan deck.
Yeah.
So I decided to leverage a little bit of that factor, and on
Mm,
top of that, if you are already a cleric, you can draw a card, discard a card, which allows for a little bit more floating memory
absolutely.
options. So it just kind of went with a little bit of the synergy without having to go specifically with Creative Shock.
It makes a lot of sense why you're going to level 2 as well, seeing how you've mapped out this main deck here, as I do think this is a deck that is trying to give itself enough room to breathe to make it to level 2. I also do appreciate, I think you've been pretty considerate about the amount of floating memory you've put in here, and
Yeah.
just understanding that actually getting to utilize your floating memory these days, it's not what it used to be, especially with things like Water Diana going around, where everybody just has, I think, a laser eye approach to looking at graveyards and getting a sense as to what's in there that could extract value. I think it's pretty smart not to go super deep on this. And from what I'm seeing here, it looks like you've got 8 cards total with floating memory, and I do think that's about where you would want to be. So
My goal was that the cremation rituals and the library witches would be the way that you supplement if you needed more floating memory by just having sheer influence. But I
mhm,
still think that you want to just get some floating memory every once in a while, and both of these are incredibly synergistic with what the deck is doing.
Well, we've seen both decks. We'll head over to judge table. We'll have a quick chat about the decks, and we'll come back with our winner. You guys did an absolutely amazing job. These two unique approaches to this prompt, and like I said before, I do not envy Murgle's position here. So great job, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Chef.
Thank you.
I'm very impressed. Two, similar decks, I think on the surface, the play patterns are quite different. And UK versus, I'm going to let you in on a little secret here. Not only am I just a huge Arasana simp, and I love Fire Arasana specifically, but when it came to putting people under pressure, 30 minutes on the clock, I wanted to give them a deck that I think gives you a narrow clump of cards that you really want to be focused on as your core. And what you put around that core, that's really where somebody's sensibilities and what they prefer versus another are really going to shine. And I think that's what we saw here today.
So did they both achieve the core you were looking for?
Yeah, I think they both did. I think there is maybe one deck here that I think might play a little bit better, and I think both of them, honestly, probably need a little bit of refinement. But whenever you're giving somebody half an hour
Yeah.
and tell them to go for it, you can only expect so much. And for that, I'm very grateful for both of them putting so much effort and getting so far into this. And I think making some really smart decisions compared to what we first saw whenever we checked them out as they were, still working through it compared to what their end results look like.
If you've come to your decision, we'll head back, and
I have.
I'll find out with the rest of them.
All right.
Hello, Bakers. We've had a brief discussion, and I'm just as in the dark as you are as to who won. Murgle wanted to keep their cards close to their chest, so I will hand over with the reasoning and declaration of who has won and who, unfortunately, will be banished from the Merry.
UK versus, I love when decks have tension. I love when decks don't always just work. And that's why today we went with a champion that is very focused on a game plan that does not happen by chance throughout a game. Lorraine, Xander, CL, these are champions that what they're built around just happens by playing the game. Arasana requires dedication and a thoughtfulness as to what cards are being put into a deck. Likewise, I like when there's tension here as well, and then when people are kept in the dark, so that's why I didn't want to tell you. I want to go ahead and let both Swan and Von God know that both of you did a tremendous job here. This is a challenge where, while there is a narrow and I think an undersized card pool for this type of deck, I do think that sparks an opportunity for creativity and problem solving that go outside of the norm. Thinking about things here like wind slop decks where half the deck builds itself. We've got a similar thing going on here, but in the opposite side of the coin. So I think you both did a great job of identifying cards that work quite well within this package that I asked for, and then building upon that in your own ways. I think you've both done a great job here. Swan, I want to say, I think you did a fantastic job of taking your Dao Chan Fire Brain and putting that towards Arasana. I also know that you are a bit of an Arasana buff as well. So I think there was some muscles there for you to flex that were pre-existing. So I think you've done a great job there. And Von God, I think it sounded like you've had a fair bit of experience playing against these types of decks, maybe from Swan, and you kind of know what functions, what doesn't, where are there opportunities to exploit weaknesses. And I saw that as well as you took some unconventional routes here. And I think you went about it in a way that is not relying on entirely on what we've seen be successful in the past, and more so looked for opportunities with exploration to try and be inventive here with how you built your deck.
Thank you.
Swan, I want to let you know that I think you've done a great job building your deck here. I think it does look like it could function quite well. My concern with what you built is that I'm not entirely sure if it's going to be able to close out a game in time. I think this deck really probably could have utilized the Alchemist Cauldron to gain access to more potions, because this does seem like a deck that is going to drive towards an outcome pretty quickly, and you're going to have to make that last turn count. I'm not sure if the concoction is really going to be the right route to take to get that outcome. Von God, I think as well, there's some things here that need to be changed, but I was really impressed with your approach in taking things kind of outside of the norm. Decompose is a card that I think whenever you read it, you get these ideas in your head as to like what could we do with this? How could we leverage this card to the fullest extent? And I think you're on the right path there. I think there's some opportunities here as well to maybe look at playing additional potions, as it did seem like it was a little bit light. But I will say, I think on your side of it, you've got some defensive cards going on here that I think can help you get to that end game and actually use this deck in a way that doesn't require that many potions all in one turn. This is built, I think, a little bit more for the long game. And I think that's an interesting take on it. With that said, UK versus, if you're okay with it, I'd like to announce the winner today. All right, Von God, I'd like to congratulate you on being the winner here. I think you did a great job, and I think you came at this from the right angle of going ahead and building a deck that I think is very much you. You continue to bring up other decks like CL and looking at other decks for inspiration, and I could see that here, and I think that was a great route to take when it comes to coming up with a deck in the moment that is not clearly defined as to what it should look like for a winning result. I think you've really done a great job. So congratulations.
Thank you so much.
So, congratulations, Vanguard. Unfortunately, Swan, this is where we do say goodbye. You were the star baker of round one. I don't think Murgle has anything with me saying that you outperformed the other competitors in round one. And when we heard you had history with this kind of build for round two, well played to everyone that took part. Do you have any final words, or would you like to plug yourself, Swan?
Oh, I mean, I'll do it so that Vanguard doesn't have to.
That's fine.
Yeah, so all three of us today, we're part of Team Glim 6. We operate out of Anchorage, Alaska. You can just search Team Glim 6 on basically all platforms. We do have a YouTube channel. We're on X and Threads and Blue Sky. We stay pretty active in a few of the Discords. We do a it's supposed to be weekly, but we end up always missing here and there. But we do a weekly podcast called just Road to Locals, where we're just chilling in the car, chatting about how much we love about Grand Archive on our way to our locals, which takes place on Tuesdays. Thank you to UK Versus as well as Murgle for hosting us today, and congratulations, Von God. And we will talk to all of you. Well, I will talk to all of you next time. But with that said, I feel the void of banishment calling, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye.
And Swan is gone. So yes, go check out Team Glimpse 6 on YouTube, all the other socials. I'm really interested to now go and search for this car podcast. It seems like a very unique format. As our crowned winner, as our level 3 champion of the material deck, how are you feeling, Vanguard?
I feel fantastic. After round one, I was certain that Schwan was going to be the winner. Just the amount of work that he had put into that first deck really put some fear into me. So it was a wonderful surprise to see this turn around and get this surprise win. Thank you so much, Murgle. Thank you so much, UK Versus, for bringing us on, and thank you so much for this win.
Great to have you, and if I get enough of these episodes out, I'll try and get you back for a Champions of Champions material deck episode. It was great having you here, and it was great to just see Team Glimpse 6 and what you guys were cooking. Big shout out to my judge, Murgle. Absolutely amazing having you here. You came up with a very unique and very cool prompt. And as mentioned throughout this, you do make your own content, so feel free to plug yourself and say a few things as well.
Absolutely. So I am Murgle. You can find me on places like YouTube, X, and in Merlin's Marketplace, shitting up their chats. So always looking to have a great time. Check out my channel for things like kind of rogue deck techs, talking head videos as well, where I like to discuss the goods and the bads of the game and just whatever comes to mind. It's very much a variety channel, and I really enjoy talking about this game. So be sure to check me out. UK Versus, like to thank you as well for having me on. This was a ton of fun. It's great just getting to sit back and be in the peanut gallery and just watch them dance, right? So a lot of fun. Thank you for having me.
I mean, as a new player myself, this was really educational on terms of how players approach deck building. It's been an absolute blast. I'm gonna try and get more of these done, and maybe we'll switch it up and get Murgle to come in as a player, and we'll get get Team Glimpse 6 to come in and judge your deck building skills.
I can't
Retribution.
wait. But hey, you are a fantastic brewer, so I am ready to see what you can come up with.
If everyone watching, thanks for making it through to the end. If you do like this kind of content, do let me know. This is kind of like my bread and butter content. I love making stuff like this. Big thanks to Team Glint 6 and to Murgle for being here. Do go subscribe to the YouTube channel, show them all the love, and just Grand Archive is an amazing game. If you're a new player who has appreciated and learned from this, I'm in the same boat as you. That was absolutely great. And well, leave it here. We've just signed out with. Remember, for Theories, News, and more, win, lose, or draw, keep it UK Versus, and we'll see you at locals. Bye.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.